plain sushi like this. This is just plain sushi nori. You can tell if it's a good quality. It's like a light green, shiny. So there's two sides to the seaweed. There's a shiny side, and then there's a rough side. You always want to put the rice on the rough side. So you take the sheet, just pinch it the other way.
Now, how long does that last? Once you open it,
months, maybe years. I don't know. I go through it so quickly. I
Right,
never
right,
had it go bad. But some people stick it in the freezer, and that helps preserve it. But there's those oxygen packets in there which help keep it dry. And Utah's pretty dry, so it'll keep really well. If you're in a humid place, it might go bad a little quicker.
What gives it that
like you said earlier, moisture.
What gives it the shine? Just
gold, like,
I'm not sure what gives it the shine, but I don't know. It's a good question.
Google it.
Yeah. So what you do, take your piece of seaweed. This mat, obviously, the fact that we're using saran wrap here, this is not traditional. So what you do, take your wet hands, grab a ball. So the ball should be about the size of in between a racquetball and a tennis ball. Okay. So I've never played lacrosse, but I hear a lacrosse ball is like about this size. So I'm gonna say lacrosse ball. Okay. So we take this ball. Man, I feel like a celebrity or something.
You are.
Okay. So we take this ball, and typically, when you work in a dry place like this, you really wanna. Your hands dry so quickly, so you might have to re-wet it if you're doing it slower. So what you do is you just kind of square up the ball, start at the very top, and you just go 1, 2, 3, across like that. And then the second half is 1, 2, 3. Now, when you're working on at a Japanese restaurant, they usually have these rubber cutting boards, so your stuff doesn't move at all, and you can actually do this whole process on the cutting board, and the seaweed doesn't slide at all. But since we're using a cutting board that slides, I'd like to put it on the plastic. It helps it not to move. Okay, so we take that, flip it over, take the shrimp. You always have to have a little bit of spicy mayo in there for sure. Could you grab me that cucumber on that rack? And we'll go one avocado. These are a little too hard. Yeah.
hey.
So you want to go with the softer avocado. Just so that it cuts a little easier. So these are a little hard, but we'll just kind of do that. I like to cut that part off. Have you ever eaten that part right there? It tastes nasty. Just cut that whole thing off. It helps to save.
Yeah, is avocado a traditional?
No, definitely not. Avocado, if you went to Japan, would pretty much never be on sushi. Unless it was like a really trendy, modernized sushi bar. But from what I've heard from most of my friends from Japan, it's almost like not even existed. So, but some of the younger students that come for school to the States, they're really into. They call it American sushi. So they would call this Americanized sushi, and they do consider it to be a different beast altogether. So just cut your avocados like so. You can, if I was making like a caterpillar roll, I would just kind of pat it down like so, and I would lay that on top of the roll, and then we cut through that. But just for this particular roll, I'm going to do it a little different. So take that. The cucumber, if you can use the English cucumbers, I find that those are a little more, they're just a little crunchier, a little less bitter with the skin. But this will do. So what you do, cut out that little seed there. Cut that in half. And then just stick that right in there, okay? So this, stick right there. Okay? Stick right there. So what you do, you scoot your roll down to about 1/2 inch right there. So there's a little space. And because this is really poofy, you're gonna really have to squeeze this in, like so. So we really tuck that in like that, and then just roll it through like that. Okay? We take that, and we get our tuna. Did we eat all that tuna that was floating around?
I think we did, yeah.
Good job. Okay, so we'll move this on the side. I'm just gonna cut some more of this tuna here. Get our awesome roll that chef brought us. So just wrap this up. Just kind of give it a nice little press to take out some of that water. Typically, if I had a little more time, I would let that sit and absorb for like a good 10 minutes or so. But just kind of fly it through this real quick. So, again, the grain's going this way. With this, I might just square that out a little. I'm going to use this for another demo. Okay, so watch this. Take your knife, come like this. 1, 2. Okay. Take our fish. 1, 2, 3. Just like so. And then I'm going to stick that right on there. And then what we do is we get a little saran wrap. And you take a sheet enough to cover the roll. And then you take a dry mat, like this, put it over the top of the roll, and just give it a nice press, like that, okay? Don't be shy, just really get that nice and pressed over the top. So, for this one, you can add a little avocado on top. So, I'm going to show you a little trick with the avocado that looks really nice. So what you do, you take this fish and you alternate like this. So you go, avocado, fish, avocado, and then I'm going to slice one more little slice of this actually. So over here, boom. Put one more slice here. This is kind of the same technique that they use for rainbow rolls a lot. Put a little slice of avocado and then fish like that. It just kind of has a nice little presentation to it. So what we do, take our saran wrap, press it firmly over the top like that. And then what we do, we come in here and we cut directly through the saran wrap. So one easy way to get even, dip your knife in the bowl, give it a little tap. That water will help the rice not to stick. You cut it in half, and you keep cutting it in half until you get 8 pieces. Okay, so when you cut it, try to cut it in one clean cut if possible. Just cut it all through. Okay, and then you come in with this dry mat once again, and you reshape it so that it's nice and perky and beautiful. Okay, so we take this right here. Couple ways to plate it. You can turn it in half like so, like that, and then you just go like this. 1, 2, 3. That's one way of plating it. Oops, sorry about that. So that's one way to plate it. I'm going to show you a couple different ways here. So sorry, I'm not used to unplating it, but just to show you, you can do like a little curved action like that. It's another way, and then I'll show you a few other ways to plate as well. But that's pretty much your standard Playboy roll.